Welcome back to more Sonic Lost World. Last time we got through Windy Hill, so this time we're starting with Desert Ruins Zone 2.
You, fat one! Go take care of that blue pest.
Hey, who are you calling fat?
You! Now, if you hurry and destroy Sonic, I've got an even bigger sandwich.
Boy, sandwich!
Oh, help me.
Desert Ruins Zone 2 is very interesting for a couple of reasons. The first of which is there's a distinct lack of desert and ruins in this stage. That also applies to the next stage as far as I remember. We have an auto runner along a bee-themed area. So basically, we have to carefully make our way through the hives and avoid running into any walls. That does count as a game over, so in some ways this actually reminds me a little bit of the high-speed sections in Sonic 06 of all things, which is definitely an interesting thing to be reminded of. We also have our introduction to the second Deadly Six member that we'll be fighting, Zomom. I think I don't have to explain why Zomom is pretty problematic, and that applies to a lot of the Deadly Six. In general, these are not popular characters, because at best, they're one note. At worst, they're borderline offensive stereotypes. So in general, these characters are definitely not great. It is interesting, though, that we do have a larger roster compared to Colors, for example, where we only had Sonic and Tails for the most part. Amy and Knuckles are present for certain cutscenes. And it is actually interesting hearing their voice actors. This was actually one of the first mainline games where they got a lot more voice lines after the recast with Sonic Freeriders. In general, I think Amy's voice actress got a lot better over time. She sounds a lot spunkier in games like Forces and Frontiers especially. And Knuckles actually sounds a lot like the Furious actor in this game, and actually sounds a lot more organic, I'd say, in Forces, but that was actually this current actor, Travis Willingham's, last go at the character of Knuckles. But yeah, in Forces especially, I definitely feel like he sounds a lot more like his other characters. Like, I think of Colonel Mustang when I hear him in Forces, compared to in this game, where he actually sounds a lot more like Dan Green from the 4Kids era, in my opinion. So, we made it to the boss.
You're barely a snack.
This fight is interesting. Basically, we have to be launched. We get launched into the air, have to land, and then have to actually deal damage. We also have to worry about this rotating. Luckily, with the parkour system, we will be able to save ourselves a little bit. Also, this mission actually went really smoothly. If you're trying to go for red rings, it's actually a bit of a nightmare with some of the turns you have to make. But if you're just trying to get through the stage without the red rings, it's not bad. And that kind of applies to a lot of my thoughts on Lost World in general. If you're trying to 100% the game, it's kind of a nightmare. Trying to play casually, it's really not that bad though, in terms of gameplay. Again, I have some issues definitely with the character portrayals, and again, I'll have plenty more to say at a later time as we get deeper into the story and frankly, see more of the Deadly Six and how, again, oddly stereotypical a lot of them are. I'm waiting for the extended lock-on, and it didn't show up, so that's another problem with this game's gameplay sometimes. Sometimes you won't be able to actually lock on multiple times to a target, and in this case, we'll actually be able to finish off Zomom really easily if we can get the full lock-on, but we can't.
Does this mean no dessert?
Power levels green, Orbot?
Power level stable. Extractor activated.
Good, good.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Feed me, baby.
Levels fluctuating. Reaction unstable. Better shut it down quick, boss, or it will lock into overload.
Shut it down!
Why just stop, boss? I felt great!
The machine is unstable. We just want to borrow some of the planet's energy. We don't want to destroy it.
Speak for yourself.
So, let's head over here and pick up this extra life before heading to Zone 3. I'm not sure if this is better themed than the last world. We have a desert pun, essentially. Obviously, this is a dessert level. But I definitely feel like the theming is too loose at times, and I feel like the worst case is actually Desert Ruins. Like, half the world is basically barely connected to its namesake, and I feel like that is worse than a lot of the other areas. By the way, we also have another move. If you press X, or I think Y also works, instead of A or B, you can actually perform a kick. You can actually kind of combo enemies into each other like this, which is really nice, and that's how you're supposed to defeat some of the enemies here. I remember how Colors had Sweet Mountain, for example, but that had a cohesive theming. Well, that's our first death, and it was a little bit unceremonious at that. If I'm being honest, I don't entirely know what happened. I just kind of panicked because I think I didn't jump properly, and I wasn't sure how to course correct to save myself, so that is, again, not exactly how I expected to die for the first time in this playthrough, but it was inevitable. We are going to lose a lot of lives in this playthrough, I'm going to say right now, because this game is actually very difficult at times. Not necessarily difficult, but just kind of annoying, maybe would be a better term for some of the challenges. But again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Again, I clearly have a lot of thoughts in this game, as do a lot of the fan base, but in general, I do feel like these early worlds aren't too bad. So again, I'm a little bit surprised I ended up losing there of all places. We have these little cannons, which again feels very Sweet Mountain, with the pirate boss of that area. We have these little rotating sweets here along with the red ring. Again, I'm not overly concerned about them, but we might as well pick them up if they're in the way. Well, this is going okay so far. We actually have a hidden cannon under here that will take us through a path of rings. Again, I can't believe this was like the only Sonic game at launch where you didn't actually get an extra life for getting 100 rings. And again, I feel like a game over would be a possibility without that, because of just how mean some of the later stages are. But with that, I think we're actually already at the end. That should be the final capsule if we can make this stupid jump here. And finally, we have Desert Ruins Zone 4.
One word of helpful advice: diet and exercise.
That's 3 words!
Hey! Whoa!
I think I'll have you for dessert!
Don't talk with your mouth full.
Yeah, right. Hey, I forgot the mustard! Be right back!
Hey, where do you think you're going?
Soma might actually be the worst portrayal of the Deadly Six now that I'm going through this game again. There's another one that I feel very strongly about that we'll be seeing in a bit. But yeah, I definitely feel like this has aged extremely poorly, and I kind of feel like even in like 2013, this would have been seen as very insensitive, to be blunt. We have an auto-scroller, you know, everyone's favorite part of a Sonic game. I can only think of a handful of Sonic games that actually have traditional auto-scrollers like this, not just like on-rail sections. The only other major example before this I can think of was actually Sonic 1 for the Master System and Game Gear, where I think one active Bridge Zone is actually an auto-scroller like this. There is another example in the next game, or next 3D game I need to specify, but I'll save my thoughts for that for whenever we get to Forces, whenever that may be. Next we have the Drill Wisp. By the way, Wisp is the right bumper in this version of the game. I don't know what it would be on keyboard, because I don't think this game would be very fun to play on keyboard, if I'm being completely honest. We definitely want to keep an eye on our Wisp meter in the top right, and make sure to collect more capsules along the way to keep our drill power intact. Some of the drill sequences in this game, admittedly, are actually really cool. There are some very fun platforming sections involving the Drill Wisp. So again, as much as I do complain about parts of this game, there are other parts I think are actually legitimately novel and very interesting. So we have a bunch of little robots with bumpers, so obviously we want to avoid those to avoid losing time. Here we actually have to make a jump, which is kind of scary, but we'll see how this goes. I feel like I've messed this up in the past by getting the wrong angle, but luckily that was good, and we should be getting pretty close to Zomom. I think he's actually causing that tornado, if I'm not mistaken. So once again, we have an auto-scroller trying to get away. This is actually a stage where getting the red rings isn't a problem. There are definitely some later on where, on my first playthrough on Wii U, I actually did go through all of the stages to get through to get all of the red rings, and I had the most miserable time with this game because of that. So again, if you're not going for red rings, from a pure gameplay standpoint, this game isn't that bad. It's not that rough, and in general, most of my problems lie elsewhere, and again, we've seen a little bit of that already with Zomom and the Deadly Six in general. And I almost feel like the writing as well with Sonic, but I think we're actually coming up on one of my least favorite parts of this game after the next cutscene or so. I don't know why that dash panel didn't work. I guess I hit the edge of the screen for the auto-scroller, and it didn't scroll automatically like it was supposed to. So again, even though, again, I feel like the gameplay isn't that bad, there are still some quirks. It's still a 3D Sonic game, so some level of quirkiness is to be expected. Next we have to outrun this, and after this we actually should be pretty close to the boss. Now, do I remember how this boss works? The answer is not really, so we'll have to see how this goes. We have a drill capsule now, so I guess we have to chase after him. I kind of forgot about this part, to be honest. To be honest, I practiced this game over the period of like a couple months because of my tolerance for some of the later stages, so I don't necessarily have the best memory of some of the later gimmicks, or actually some of the earlier gimmicks, to be honest, just because I played these so long ago when I practiced. I'm amazed that counted. I thought that would have counted as getting hit, so, or that didn't count actually, so I was very lucky.
We gotta go! It's dinner time!
I hone your abilities. I equip you with the most powerful mechs I can create. I even give you a giant sandwich. And you still disappoint me. I'm a compassionate man.
That shell looks like trouble.
Hold on a second. Sonic! I think that thing in Eggman's hand
Gone! Eggman's shell is gone.
That was a mistake.
Whatever. When is it a mistake to take your toys away?
When it's the only thing keeping 6 angry Zeti from controlling my mechs, you moronic hedgehog.
Strike, brothers! Make the fool pay for our abuse and enslavement.
Shiver me timbers!
ride would be nice.
Warbot, Killbot, we are leaving!
Oh man, I should have listened to you, Tails.
Oh, you think?
And with that, we can now head to World 3. And right on cue with the new Super Mario Bros. Comparisons, we now have a tropical area. I don't like that cutscene, because I don't like when Sonic is portrayed this way in media. I prefer when Sonic is, like, somewhat impetuous, but a lot of times I feel like in modern portrayals, Sonic actually has a problem where he ends up just being like too cocky and doesn't listen to people and ends up causing a lot of problems for him and his friends because of that. And that is generally my least favorite type of Sonic portrayal. It's also why I'm not a big fan of Sonic Prime, actually, because Sonic is portrayed very similarly in that show compared to in Lost World. And again, that's like my least favorite type of Sonic portrayal across all of the different iterations of Sonic. Oddly enough, in the movie it doesn't bother me as much, just because I almost feel like Sonic is portrayed as, like, such a different version in general, that Sonic being a little bit younger and more impetuous doesn't matter as much, but like Prime and Lost World bother me because they're supposed to be main universe, and yet Sonic seems like he's constantly acting wildly out of character. So yeah, that's actually one of my biggest issues with Lost World, is just I don't like Sonic in this game. It's nothing to do with like the voice direction or anything, it's entirely the writing, and a creative choice at that, because again, I do feel like there was some merit to having Sonic be somewhat cocky because of his character. Like, he's supposed to be somewhat smug all the time, but it often loops around to being just kind of impetuous and almost like childish, and that's the kind of Sonic portrayal that just really doesn't sit well with me. And this was like the first really big example of that, because like even in Colors, with the slightly sillier writing, Sonic still kind of felt in character in some ways. Obviously he's a lot more jokey with the baldy nose hair stuff and all that, which obviously carried through into this game, unfortunately, depending on who you ask. But in general, I definitely feel like Sonic is more immature himself in this, not from a he makes a lot of joke standpoints, but he makes a lot of bad decisions standpoint. And again, that's like my least favorite kind of Sonic storytelling, when Sonic is the problem in the story, and yeah, just basically creates problems because he won't listen to people. With that, we have this area here. I actually forgot the name of it. It's Tropical something. I actually think we're getting pretty close to the end, though. We have these little butterflies that we have to break free, so they'll flower the plant over there that we can use to get to the next area. But again, I'm pretty sure we're actually getting to the end of the stage. I don't think there's too much left. We just need to figure out what to do here. That should be all of them, so I guess we'll hop in and see where this takes us. Never mind, we have a whole cloudy section that I completely spaced out on. Again, I definitely feel like since I practiced the early stages so early on, in preparation for this playthrough, I definitely don't remember them as well as the later stages. And also, frankly, the later stages being a lot more rough, they tend to stand out a lot more as well. One other interesting thing about the 3DS version is the moveset is slightly different. Instead of a kick move, he actually will like kick out a Sonic Boom instead. So it's not particularly different in terms of like functionality. In some cases they'll stun an enemy and you can basically homing attack them, so it works a little bit differently, but the overall use of using it on things that you can't homing attack is still roughly unchanged. Maybe that is the end? Again, I'm trying to remember.
Alas, poor Cubot. I knew him well.
Arr! Me voice chip's all cattywampus. Thanks to Sonic, everything's gone cattywampus. My cacophonic conch was the only thing keeping those 6 maniacs in check.
Some sort of a natural inhibitor to their powers. Very painful.
And very rare. The Zeti have an innate ability to manipulate magnetic fields. They can make electronics, including my mechs, do interesting things. I controlled those powers with the conch, until Sonic punted it away with his typical stupidity.
Well, get lost, Eggman, and let us get things under control.
I hope the Zeti eat you alive, you meddling hedgehog.
Okay, if it pleases the court, all those who think Eggman is a total bonehead raise their hands.
Well, there you go, folks. The motion is passed unanimously.
I didn't raise my hand.
I think we have time for one more zone, so let's head over to Zone 2.
It would seem the peaceful days of tending my garden will have to wait. While I take care of these matters, the rest of you cannot.
Please, Master Zik. This is not something you should trouble yourself with. It's beneath you.
Now, don't be concerned. It'll be good to stretch these old bones.
I remember the stage being interesting. We basically have to lure fruit into these large fans to create basically like currents of juice to make our way through here. In a way it's very creative, but again it also reminds me a lot of something you'd see in Mario Galaxy. We also have our third Deadly Six members that will be fighting Master Zik, who again also feels very stereotypical. So that's just kind of the recurring theme with a lot of them except Zavok, the leader, who's just kind of bland by comparison and kind of one note as the kind of Bowser leader type character. Again, all the others are like very questionable to be honest, and that really bogs down the game in a lot of ways. But again, we'll use the juice to make it to the next area. I don't remember this level being particularly long, so I guess we'll have to see how this goes. We also do have a boss fight though with Master Zik in a bit. We also have plenty of ammo capsules. I'm actually going to not worry about them too much as this ball is creating shockwaves that we'll have to dodge. Here's the fan, so we'll once again head over to the other side and try to get it to come over here. I don't know where it went though. So much for this stage being short, I suppose, since I completely lost track of it. There it is, and from here I think it'll actually be faster to go this way, potentially. Again, it is nice having an ability to walk in a case like this, where sometimes you might actually have issues. If you try to run, you might get too far away and like despawn it or something. And I also don't know where the spawn point for it is, so I have no clue where to go to actually start luring it again. There it is, so we also have to dodge the totems here, so we'll try to lure it like over here, and then into the fan. We should be getting pretty close to the boss. I remember a couple of gimmicks being interesting, but for the most part, I don't remember too much about this fight. I do like how this is a different color, because it's like a melon instead. So that'll take us up here. We have these little like chicken robots that actually I think are from Sonic and Knuckles, which is kind of an odd throwback actually. They don't really do much to get in the way. They're just kind of inconvenient more than anything. Well, we might as well skip past all the enemies if we can. And next up we have another melon here. We also have a rocket wisp over here too. This is actually kind of annoying trying to get past these. So there we go. I do remember the boss battle using the Rocket Wisp quite a bit, so I'm actually not sure what we're supposed to do here. I'm actually going to hop on here and see where we can actually go. Not many places really, so let's launch over here. We just have to aim and then press A to fire. Obviously in the Wii version you'd have a gyro. I guess maybe that's what we're supposed to do because this definitely feels like progress. So we'll take out these enemies and deal with whatever comes after this. I don't remember there being too much more after this, like, there should just be the boss. Zik is taunting us quite a bit here, so we must be getting fairly close to him, but I remember the boss also incorporating the Rocket Wisp to some extent, and again, I don't I got hit in a cutscene. I definitely disagree with that, to be honest. Or maybe I'm just thinking of this part where you just have to like planet hop to get over to Zik. There was the apple in the other area. I guess that's another way to get to this spot, but I guess this works too. There he is, actually. That didn't take long. Gee, guess what you have to do for this fight? There's a fan, so once again we have to lure this in, and then try the homing attack, and also hope the homing attack cooperates, because it doesn't always. So, again, the multi-target is cool in theory, but it can also be kind of annoying just having to wait for it to cooperate with you, basically. And with that, one more hit should finish it off with a fully charged one. And he got away, so yeah, this can be a little bit annoying trying to wait for it to charge up. Next time we'll see what Zone 3 has in store for us, so thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for more Sonic Lost World.